in a commercial division, numbers play more than emotions. In the residential arena, it's emotions versus logic. So more logic, less emotion when it comes to a driver analytical, and more emotion when it comes to an influencer, which stands for expressive personality, and also amiable, which stands for on the DISC test as the S for steady. People that are more stable, steady, looking for safety, safe income. They normally don't like to work in an environment that has commission base. So it's more commission based, it's more, but we're going to touch that in a later session. I don't want to get too much into the detail. And by the way, just pay attention. What I was doing right now is my mind goes in analytical mode, and I'm analyzing what I'm trying to say so that you guys can get, but I take too much details. So as you go along doing your listing presentations, when you're negotiating with someone over the phone, when you're calling a for sale by owner an expired listing, and you start behaving just like who you are and just the way you're doing things, which comes across on the opposite side of the opponent, of the person on the other side of your prospect. If the prospect, as an example, is amiable, and I'm a super driver, what happens naturally is that I push them away naturally because I'm a driver. I call for action now. I don't pay attention to the emotions. I'm more in the logic. So drivers do things quickly. They do things now. Let's get things done. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's the driver style. The analytical style is no problem, we'll go, but slow down a second. Show me the details. Show me the data. Why should I make this move? Logically explain it to me. The amiable on the other side will come in and say, guys, I don't care about the details. I need to feel safe about this. So you need to make me feel safe. So when I speak with an amiable, I naturally slow down. I lower my voice a little bit. I change my body language. I try to kind of put water on the driver's side of myself and become a little bit more sensitive. Ask the person, how do you feel about that? What do you think that, what do you feel that, you know, that this means? Like, what does that mean? How does it make you feel? It's all about feelings. How do you feel about that? Do you feel safe? Does that make you feel like this is, you know, the next step? Do you understand that this is what's going to happen? And therefore, does it make you feel good? So these are the kind of things we're going to talk about as we go along. And when we do the session on the DISC profile, we will go like really deep on these things. And as a matter of fact, when we spoke about, and we continuously talk about prospecting and role-playing, one of the main reasons you want to do that on a very consistent basis is because you really want to understand, who am I talking to right now? Should I be more of a driver? If you are amiable, how should you behave next to a driver? Because the driver is going to intimidate you quickly. So if the seller is a driver, or you're talking to a husband and wife, and the husband is expressive and the wife is a driver, and you come in as an amiable, you're going to have some hard time. But we'll talk about that later on. The reason I'm mentioning this right now is because analyticals, if you are presenting to someone who works with logic, if you present to an analytical, if you present to a driver, they really are going to pay attention to what's happening in here. Expressives, less. Amiables, less. But this is, you know, when you're doing a listing presentation, when you are branding yourself, when you're promoting yourself, when you're sending a message into the market with a video, when you're doing all these different things, you got to be careful when you do that, because you want to bring them accurate information. And that's what we're going to be talking about right now. How do you really price properties? How to become a pricing specialist? What does it mean? How does it play in a market field? Like when you are out there trying to get a listing, when you're out there promoting yourself as a pricing specialist. Guys and girls, one of the main reasons I listed a lot of properties is because I went crazy on this topic. And that's why I teach it as part of the system. because I know that it can get you guys results. For those of you that are more expressive amiables, you're going to find it a little bit more, harder to really understand. Lilian is asking a question. It keeps freezing on me. Okay, I got you. Does anybody have a problem with the voice or with the video? Do you see me clearly? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect.
Right, so Lilian, it's probably your connection. You want to maybe log out and come back in. All right, let's begin. You all know what is a CMA, and if you're brand new, you don't know, so that's a comparative market analysis, which is really a market study. You go into the MLS, you're inputting some information into the MLS, because you're looking to give a price in a house that is 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Guys, try to mute yourself when you come in, otherwise there's going to be a lot of noise in the background. All right. So a CMA is when you go into the market through MLS, which, by the way, in some countries they don't have MLS, like Italy right now. We're looking to open up Circle100 here in Italy. They don't have an MLS. Also in Israel, there's no MLS. So that's it's a huge. When we have things that others don't have, we don't appreciate them as much. I can throw you into any market, and that's why I keep talking about, guys, memorize and internalize the scripts and dialogues, the handling objections, the listing presentation, the pre-qualifying script. When you memorize and internalize that language, you can go into any market in the United States. Like, you can move tomorrow from Rhode Island to Florida, and you can start killing it down there. Year one, get 50 listings. Why? Because it's the same language. You will do exactly the same stuff. The only thing that's going to change is this: pricing properties and CMA. So if you want to study a market, you want to understand what's happening in the market, what is the right price on the property? I have a listing presentation tomorrow. What is the right price for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in X location? So when you market yourself as a market specialist, when you're going into a listing presentation and you're having a conversation with the sellers, you got a driver and you have an analytical. Okay, say the wife is a driver, the husband is analytical. By the way, this presentation is going to drive you nuts, because the driver wants to get it over with in 20 minutes, and the analytical needs a lot of data, which can take you an hour and a half, and they want to know, why is this house like that, and what's happening in the back of the house, and what kind of basement they have, what's on the roof, what's outside, what's inside, who are the neighbors. They want to know every detail. So in order for you to win in every single situation, you need to prepare yourself to 4 different personality styles. And as you're presenting, you can then decide based on different variations and signs, which will teach you how to figure that one out. But you could figure it out fairly quickly, especially when you're in front of an expressive, which is an influential, the high I on the DIS test. That's going to show up very quickly. The driver, you could feel that very quickly if someone is a driver. And, amiable, you'll see them sitting there all quietly and, behaving in a different way than other people. And analyticals are going to ask you a lot of questions about the data. So if you want to prepare yourself, you got to be able to prepare a CMA fairly quickly. And let's talk about that, very quickly, because we shouldn't really spend too much time on this particular topic. So a good CMA can separate a sold listing from an expired listing. And that is one of the main reasons you want to become a market expert. A market expert is someone who knows the market inside out, meaning they know what's sold in the last 3 months, they know what's sold in the last 6 months, they know what's sold in the last 12 months. They understand why properties sell at X price versus X minus or X plus. They see the properties, they actually go preview the properties. A good CMA is going to tell you the right listing price. Many agents tend to go out on a listing presentation. And because they're not super strong on handling objections, they're not super strong on their preparation, they're not super strong on from the beginning of the process. What's the beginning of a listing presentation? The beginning of a listing presentation actually is the first time you're calling the seller, if it's a FISBO, if it's your friend. if it's an expired listing. The first conversation you're having is the beginning of your listing presentation. And after you finish with your script, you jump on your pre-qualifying script. And after that, you're sending them a pre-listing package. And after that, you're doing your listing presentation. If you're going to agree with the seller to price a house over market value, you are situating yourself for an expired listing. You're also situating yourself to fight with the seller, to have feelings that are not positive, meaning you're selling the seller on a certain idea, and then if you're not delivering on the same idea, the sellers are going to get pissed off. They're probably not going to be negotiable when it comes down to negotiating offers. And you're probably going to end up with an expired listing and a pissed off seller. Top producers preview properties on a regular basis. If you pay attention to the schedule that I presented to you, I believe it's step 10, when we spoke about time management and which schedule you should follow, you will see in there previewing properties. Because one of the only ways for you to figure out what the real value of a property is to actually preview that listing. When I go on a listing presentation, I bring in 3 actives, and I'm sure that you do the same, most agents do the same. 3 active listings that are super similar in features, location, size, condition. That's the secret. 3 active meaning Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Let's look at our active competition right now in the market. Let's look at what our competition looks like. And if we're going to situate ourselves above the competition in price, what we're doing is we're helping our competition to get offers. We're helping them sell their property instead of us selling ours. So you take 3 active listings that you believe are the best comparison. Then you choose 3 solds that are the best in comparison. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2,000 square feet, 2-car garage, whatever. Finished basement, finished attic, backyard, half acre, 1 acre, quarter of an acre. Depends on what it is that we're dealing with. So when you are becoming a market expert, how do you do that? How do I become a market expert? Unfortunately, there is only one way to get that thing done. And it took me a while to actually figure that one out. I actually went in because my assistant used to make all my CMAs at the time that I'm talking about this example. She would prepare the pre-listing package. She would do the CMA. She knew what she was doing. She just never sold the properties. I will just pick it up from my desk and run to the listing presentation. I used to do 2-3 listing presentations a day. So I'm running to a listing presentation. I go in a market which is a FISBO. That's outside of my farm. It's outside of my comfort zone. It's outside of my area. I didn't study the market. I just grabbed the pre-listing package and I went on a listing presentation. I go through the presentation. We get towards the end. I start going through the CMA and I show these people a couple of properties. One was priced a little bit above what I wanted them to list for, and one was like right there in the same figure, and one was below. And I started talking to them about the house that's slightly higher in price. And I said, look at this house. It has 3 bedroom, 2 bath. We go through that thing. And then I'm saying, it's more or less the same condition as your house. Now, how do I know what's the condition? Why would I talk to these people about a condition of a house I never seen before? The seller tells me, that's my sister's house. And you can't compare the condition because we renovated our house 8 years ago and her house is in very bad condition in comparison. So that put me on the spot. And since that day, I made a decision. I'm never going to go to a listing presentation before I preview the 3 actives that I chose to present. So I would go the same day to preview. My assistant would already call the other agents. Hi, Ran wants to preview a listing. In New Jersey, it was easier because we had an electric lockbox. You can just go in there with the electric lockbox. You can go right in, and the showing is being registered. And so that it was much easier. So I go there, I preview the listings before I go on my presentation. Then when I present and I talk about these homes, I just sold these 3 homes. In my veins, I can talk about these homes because I've been inside. I know what I'm talking about. And then I can do apples to apples. So it's very important that you guys take this thing very seriously. When you choose properties for, to present to a seller, active listings, you got to know what you're talking about. And the only way to become a market expert, the only way is to look at the MLS every morning. So you want to check the MLS before you're prospecting, before you even role play. Ask me what's the best schedule. I'll answer like this. At 7 o'clock in the morning, you're role playing already. Because you should start calling people at 7:30 a.m., 7:45 the latest. Because between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, you're going to catch 3 times more people at home than after 8 o'clock. It's just how it is. Okay, so if you start role-playing at 7, that means that at about 6:40, 6:45, you're going to log into the MLS, you're going to look at the hot sheet, and you're going to study what happened today or last night. How many homes went under contract yesterday? Which ones? What's available, what came on the market, what sold, what closed, how much you closed for. So you always got your eye on the hot sheet, you always got your eye on MLS, you always understand what's going on, especially in your farm area. You should know everything that's going on in your farm, and you should actually physically preview the homes in your farm. That's when you become a market expert. So these are the kind of things that I did on a daily basis, especially before I go and list a property. I always wanted to see the actives. Now, if you're actively working in the market and you work in a town that's kind of small, maybe there is 10, 15 active homes and you already seen them all because you go to open houses and you have a buyer that you showed most of these homes and you know what's going on, you're looking at the MLS and you know exactly what's happening, it's easier for you to converse about the value of these homes because you are a market expert in that particular niche, in this market, in this town, in this city. If you work in a bigger place, in a bigger city like Providence, as an example, there's a lot of different price range. You can go on the east side of Providence and sell a property for $2 million, and then you go across town and you can sell the same property for $285,000. So you got to really understand where you are, which block are you on, what's going on this block, what's going on in the other block, how this block looks like after 5 p.m. versus the other one after 5 p.m. Got to know all these different things. When you go in and you do and throw in a CMA, you need to know what you're doing. You can't just go, 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Providence. Show me what sold in the last 90 days. It doesn't work like that. You got to be analytical. If you are an expressive personality, which means high I on the disc profile, you will naturally hate numbers. You just hate it. And you're naturally an unorganized person. That comes naturally to you. Organization doesn't come naturally to expressives, influential. So the high I's tend to be very all over the map. Therefore, they don't pay attention. It's not that important for you to really, know the CMA, what happened, and preview all these homes. It's not really important. I can throw my show, move myself, move my arms. I can influence and I can, motivate the sellers to list with me. Yes, probably you could motivate some people to list with you. But if you're going to hit a driver analytical, trust me, you're not going to get the listing. They're actually going to look at you like an idiot. And so there's a lot of different kinds of personality styles. It really depends who you are. But I tell you, all across the board, you guys need to be versatile. If you want to get a lot of listings, you got to study versatility, how other people behave, what other people would like me, how they wish for me to present this to them. I have this information over here. The same information should be presented in a different way to an analytical and to an expressive. The expressive doesn't care too much about the details. It's 3 bedrooms, it's 2,168 square feet. The bedroom is 16 by 25, and this one is, they don't care about that stuff. They just want to feel excited about you and what you're doing. But at the same time, you should also know what you're talking about. So previewing properties will help you understand the market. You will know ins and outs of the market. If you move tomorrow to Florida and you do this study that I'm going to teach you now, if you can do it in 30 days. In 30 days, guys and girls, I can go to any market and become a top producer in that market, because it doesn't take more than 30 days to finalize the data that necessary for you to really figure out the value of homes. I can go to Daytona right now and, say I go there, I start working with the brokerage, I go on the MLS, I open up the MLS, I look at all the actives, I call all the agents on the MLS. Hi, I want to preview the home from one of my buyers. Hi, I want to preview your home. When do you do your open house? I'm going to swing by. And I'm just going to go there and look physically, and I'm going to spend some hours on MLS and figure out what's going on. Sellers tend to hire market experts. Previews will help you become one. What does that mean? Well, sellers prefer agents that know exactly what's going on. If you're going to walk in and start talking about XYZ house without being inside, and you're going to, spill your guts about the house and how much this house is better than the one that you're, listing right now, and they're going to look at you like you're an idiot because that's their family member's house, like happened to me. Trust me, you don't want to be in that position too many times before you actually recognize that you should take this thing seriously. Market conditions. In a seller's market, which we are right now still, all you need to do is price the property correctly. All the rest is going to happen on its own. You don't really need to sell houses. Today, I listened to a recording of Tom Ferry from Friday, where he met a couple of, this market expert, a mortgage expert, and he brought in one of the coaches. And one of the coaches was talking about this particular subject, that, seller's market versus buyer's market. And he explained, and this is an angle that most agents never really, recognize. Most of us believe, and if I ask you right now, I ask you, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a realtor. Okay, great, but what do you do as a realtor? Well, I sell houses to buyers. I list and sell houses. And then he was talking about the fact that we are not selling houses. And if you think about that, it's actually true. We are not selling houses. The sellers are selling a house. We are also not buying houses because the buyer is buying a house. So who are we? Who are we in this transaction? And why are we making 5-6% or 2.5%? For one side of the deal? Who are we in the transaction? We're not really the buyer and we're not the seller. So why are we in the middle of it? And what is really our job? So to price a house, to price a property, and I'm talking all across the board, commercial or residential, single family, 2 to 4 family condos, land, etc., etc. To price something correctly, you got to follow the steps recommended in this chapter. Let's go to the next step. Market study is an ongoing process. It doesn't happen overnight. Top producers spend a major portion of their time studying their local market, especially at the beginning stages of their career, and every time they get into a new market. I'm going to go and do, for example, you work in Providence. That's your market. So you say Providence, Johnston, Cranston, Pawtucket. Say this area is your area. Suddenly you're calling this FISBO from South Kingston, and you got yourself a listing presentation because you're very good on the phone. You know how to handle objections, you know how to book appointments. You booked an appointment, you pre-qualified, did everything good and dandy. Now you got to go there and present. So before you do that, you better off study the market. Now, this is a mistake that a lot of agents make. A lot of agents suffer from a lack of listings. Therefore, they tend to overprice listings just to have some inventory. Raise your hand if you ever took a listing overpriced. If you've been in real estate for more than 10 years, you will raise your hand because you went through a buyer's market. And you can very easily overprice a house. Look, in a seller's market, when the market goes up in price and you can list the property in January at 300, and by May it's 329. So in that market, you could say, well, I can take the listing, let's say it's 3.25. I can take it at 350 very easily because in 6 months, the market will catch, or 3 months, the market will catch up with me. But if you're in a buyer's market, or you're in a market that's declining in price, You need to think ahead. Okay, 3.25 means in 6 months, 300, maybe even less. So you got to play the game accordingly. Now, if you just joined real estate and you're a brand new licensee, or if you've been in the industry, you know, if you joined the industry after 2015, 16, you have never seen a buyer's market. You don't even know what it feels like. So you should, you know, familiarize yourself with all the rules of the game, knowing the market and also knowing the language. So if you know the market prices, what's being, you know, what's active, what's under contract, how many days, what's DOM, days on market, you know, how fast are properties actually closing from contract. And so if you know the market prices, you know the language when you're presenting, when you do listing presentation, that's going to allow you to list properties at the right price, and you're going to get them sold every time. Because when you price a property at the right price, the seller don't know the right price. They just got a CMA from an agent. What if the agent is their cousin and they just want to get the listing and sell it at the highest price possible, but they're overpricing it by 10, 15%? What happens when that's your competition? You're going on listing presentation when the seller's cousin is a realtor. You go against someone who just gave them a price. You're offering 300. The other guy told them 345. Let's start at 345 and see what happens. And you need to, you know, compete with that. So you got to really understand prices. And if you could prove them that the price is 300 or below, what does it make the other agent look like? If you're a seller and your niece, who just got her license 12 months ago, tells you that your house can be sold at 350, and then I walk in and I am a market expert and I sit with you and I prove to you that your home is not worth 350, but 300. What does it make your niece look like when I do that? And when you do that, how you should be doing that, because if you're talking to an amiable and you're going to hurt their feelings about their niece being a brand new agent who doesn't really know what's going on because she's only been, you know, in the business for 12 months, and you've been in the business in a buyer's market, seller's market, ups and downs, 22 years, how should you then present it to the seller in a way that makes you the market expert? That has nothing to do with emotions, all about logic. But if you're presenting to someone with a lot of emotions and not much of logic, then it makes no sense. So you got to understand, again, who it is that you're presenting it to. All right, on your way to top producing. These are a couple of things that I want to recommend, especially those of you that are brand new. You got to really take this thing seriously. If you're going to follow my system verbatim, like from day one joining the industry, you will never experience what agents experience. 73% of brand new licensees quit the business within a year to a year and a half. Those are the statistics. If you follow this system verbatim and you're actually going to work your butt off like you should in the first 3 years, you should not do anything else. No vacation in 3 years. When I joined the industry, I worked my butt off for 4 or 5 years before I took my first vacation because I was too busy and I wanted to climb up high so that I don't fall below. When you go and you make 50 grand and then you go spend 10 grand on vacation and then you take 3 weeks out of your business because a week before you go, you're already on vacation mood. And then a week after you return, you're on vacation. When it takes you a whole month just to readjust yourself, this month is going to throw you off big time. That's why I'm talking to you guys and I'm telling you, no vacations. You want to build a business. This is not a job. You're not coming in, oh yeah, let me just get some leads and go out there and make some money and go on vacation and have the good life. The lifestyle of a real estate top producer shows up after you guys are sweating and you guys are working so hard for at least 2-3 years. Here's what you need to do. Number one, choose your niche. So you're going to choose a niche of the market that you wish to specialize in. I wrote down here property type. What does that mean? Many times I come across an agent, and you can check on MLS. They have single family listing. They have 2 to 4 family listing. They have a warehouse for sale. they have land with approvals, they have an office building for sale, and they have a condo for sale. Can you tell me who this agent is? What they specialize in, please?
Nothing, everything.
Okay, jack of all trades. So, if an agent is doing that in a niche market, for example, I list and sell properties on the east side of Providence. That's what I specialize. I don't specialize in a property type. I specialize in an area. Therefore, I go after land, I go after office building, I do rentals, I do condos, I do townhouses, single families, etc. But it's still a niche because you are on the east side of Providence. So a niche can be property type and it can also be an area. Okay? But you got to make a decision at the beginning of your career. Who are you? Where do you want to be? It's kind of dumb. What I did was very dumb, okay? And I was doing things the hard way because I didn't really follow a system until I met the Mike Fair organization, which then I started doing stuff the right way. But I was going after FISBOs, and FISBOs showed up in New Jersey. Guys, I drove 2.5 hours away from my office inside the state to list the property. And I listed it. But I didn't think about what's going to happen next. I need to show it. I got to show this place. I got to drive there to do inspection. I got to do all that stuff. So when I started recognizing, look, I got to start building a niche where I specialize, and I need to do it in an area that has a lot of transactions. Choose a specific market you want to work in. Stop jumping. So you could do, look, your area can be, as an example, Cranston, or a specific area in Cranston. But if there are not enough transactions in that area, you just chose the wrong market. You need to choose a market that has a lot of transactions if you want to make a lot of money. And then, or you can choose a market that is very high end, but then you need to compete with the other agents. You need to really figure out who you are in the market, who do you want to be. And once you make a decision, you become the expert, meaning every open house, you got to be there. Every property actively on the market, every single day, you look at the hot sheets, there's a new property, you got to go out there and preview that property. Guys, I can't even say 99%. 100% of all the agents out there don't preview, period. In any market. You want to be the expert, you will be the one previewing these homes. Trust me, your name is coming up. Your name is coming up, guys. But you got to do the system. So choose a niche, choose a specific market, choose a price range within your market, because you could go in, again, like we said, on the east side, and you're selling properties at 150 condos, and you can sell a house at 3 million. Who are you? What do you specialize in? On your local MLS system, do a research for active homes sold in the last 6 to 9 months, expired in the last 6 months, current under contract or under agreement, withdrawn in the last 6 months, who withdraw their houses from the market and why they did that. And by the way, we had a bunch of them like 45 days ago. A lot of people withdraw their home from the market. Price reduction in the last 6 months, average days on market. These are things you got to know. These are things you got to know. Research the following: sold in the last 3 to 6 months. If the market is very active, like it is in Rhode Island, then you need 3 months. You don't need 6 months. You just go 3 months. What's sold in the last 3 months? Expired listings in the last 6 months. You don't have too many expireds in Rhode Island in certain, market pockets. In some market pockets you do. Like if you go to East Greenwich and you go above 500 price range, you will see a lot of expireds. But if you're going to go to a zone of a 2 to 4 family, where homes are selling between 150 to 325, that's a freaking, bidding war situation. So you're not going to find too many expireds there. You need to find current active listings and average days on the market. If you know inside out the information that I just showed you here on those 2 pages, this info that you see here, if you know it in every single market, you're going to freaking kill it. And again, you can sit down, learn, study, go preview, and not do enough on the phone, so you don't have any listing presentations. You can be a market expert with no listings. That's not what we're talking about over here. All right, so we covered the major points. Questions? If you have any questions, open up your mic. Most of you, all of you are muted, so you need to unmute yourself and ask questions. Now, here is what I would do if I chose a market.
Oh, I have a question, Ron.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Do you recommend then, since you mentioned withdrawn listings, to maybe include maybe one or two in the CMA, like as an example? Or do you...
Not really. I will choose an expired if I want to prove to the seller that the agent that they told me about, look, if I'm calling a FISBO and the FISBO tells me, oh, I'm going to interview a couple of agents. And I say, okay, do you mind telling me who the agents are? And they say, oh, John Smith from XYZ. I'll say, okay, no problem. You're going to go on MLS and you're going to do your research on John Smith XYZ Realty and find out some expireds under their name. And then you go and you present to the seller and you tell Mr. and Mrs. Seller, John Smith from XYZ Realty has this listing here that I want to share with you and I want to explain what it means. And I'm sure that he or she didn't share that with you. And the reason they didn't share that with you is because it works against their image and their professionality. So here's what happened. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, okay? It has 2,000 square feet, very similar to your home. The house was actually listed for $325,000. They told you that they can sell your house at $325,000, correct? Yes, okay. This is a $325,000 listing in the same area, which they had on the market for 6 months and the listing expired. Do you know what that means? And then I go through that. And then I want to show them why I think it's not $325,000 and it's $300,000. And the difference between listing it at $300,000 and listing it at $325,000, and give them the scenarios that can actually happen. Which means at $300,000, I can create a multiple offer scenario. At $325,000, you can create a no offers or lowball offers, what they call lowball offers. Because if someone listed at $325,000 and the property is, say, worth about $285,000-ish, and they got a $285,000 or $280,000 or $275,000 offer, they call that a lowball because they don't recognize that the property is not worth $325,000.
Right.
So if you can go through all that scenario with a seller who is, say, and again, need to be careful who is the seller. You got to be careful who is the seller. And that's why I keep going back into the personality style, because for me, the personality style is one of the most important things in the listing presentation. You need to know who it is that you're presenting to. And if you have no idea how to present outside of your own profile, then you're going to be limited to the amount of listings you can actually get. Now, if you are an agent that book a lot of listing appointments, but you're not getting enough of those, say you book 10 listing presentations and you took 2 listings. That's a very bad ratio. You should be, reaching out to the 7, 8. You want to do 10 listing presentations and get 7 to 8 listings. That's where you should be going. Okay? And that's only if you follow the system, meaning first script with a for sale by owner, say you're going after a FISBO. First script with a FISBO. Jumping on your pre-qualifying script. Getting a yes answer to all the right questions. Done with that, sending a pre-listing package. Reaching out, did you see my pre-listing package? Did you go over it? Okay, great. Do you have any questions before I arrive? Great. I'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Great. Now you go tomorrow at 4 p.m. You do your listing presentation. You go over the MLS. You go over all these, CMA. And you preview all these properties. You know exactly what you're talking about. There's very little competition, guys. There's very little amount of people out there that will actually go the extra mile of what I just told you now. And I'm warning you. 75% of agents are mediocre at best. They quit the business in the first 1 to 2 years. So I'm not even talking about these agents because they quit. Let's talk about the ones that are left. The ones that are left are divided in 2 groups, in 3 groups. And I talk about it in the recent video we just released. Okay, you're looking at about 80% of the agents that are low producers. They do around 5 deals a year. 5, 6, 7, 1 year 4, 1 year 7, running less than 10 deals a year. Then you have agents that do around 15, meaning they do anywhere between 12 and 16, 17 deals a year. Those are mid-level. Talking about 15% of the agents are falling in this category. So you got 80% doing 5 deals a year or less. You got 15% of agents do 15 or less deals, and then only 5% of agents do the rest of the deals, which is the majority of deals. What I'm talking to you right now, if you follow my system, you will situate yourself above the 5%. That's where I want you guys to be. But you got to be crazy. Like, you got to be crazy on following the system. You need to not deviate 1 inch from the system. And if you do that, you can go head to head with agents that's been doing it for 15 years and selling 100 homes a year, and you're selling last year 7 deals. You can take the listing away from them. How do you do that? By going the extra mile, giving 100% of yourself 100% of the time. What does that mean? It means that if you chose 3 actives on your CMA, you will preview these 3 actives before you go out and talk about these homes. It's not enough to see pictures online. Now, if you saw a virtual show, a virtual video, if you saw a virtual walkthrough video, I'm not talking about a virtual 360 because those are not really showing you what's going on. But if you saw an actual virtual showings and you walk through this property and you can, pause and look at certain angles, and you could really understand what the homes looks like, but you still need to drive by because you have no idea if the next door neighbor has 16 crappy cars sitting on the yard, and you don't know who is sitting outside at 7 a.m., with the guys drinking beer and playing loud music next door. You don't see that on MLS. You see that when you drive by. So don't be lazy. The majority of agents, I said before, I believe it's 99%, maybe more, like 99.9 style, that will actually do what I just told you. And you're separating yourself from the competition. You actually went and sold these properties. So just to summarize, in general, you should always go the extra mile in everything you do, especially when it comes to pricing properties. Don't play games with that because you need to know what you're talking about. You can't tell me that you're coming to my house to tell me how much the home is worth. I'm listening to you. I take your advice and I sign the listing to sell my home at 325. Okay? We go into the marketplace and I'm not selling. Now I have a job that's waiting for me, right? I gotta move at a certain time. You guys just told me how much my home is worth and you put me in a situation that's actually holding me back. You need to take full responsibility for who we are, what we're doing, and the importance of what we're doing. And remember that you're not selling a house and you're not buying a house. You're actually just in between, guiding the 2 people to a win-win situation. That's our job. And in order for us to do that on high levels, we really need to be versatile. We need to understand four different personality styles. And let me scare you a little bit. It's actually not 4 personality styles. When you take the DISC test, there are 16 variations. You could listen to this scenario real quick and then we'll finish. You are doing a listing presentation. You got all the information correct. You previewed the homes you put on from MLS. You know the ones that sold. You understand A to Z. You did your homework. And by the way, you'll need to do this homework very quickly because if you're talking to me right now at FISBO on a Sunday and tomorrow morning you have a listing presentation, guess what you got to do before tomorrow? You got to do all that stuff we just spoke about. So you got to move very quickly. So you're sitting with the seller and you're looking at about $325,000 price. You are very accurate with your pricing strategy. You chose the best comps. You are like perfect. Everything is good and dandy. Now, you're sitting in front of a husband and wife. The husband is a, say, super analytical person. So he's an analytical person. The wife is a driver, expressive. The husband slows down the process because he wants to know all the details. Show me this one, and what is that, and what is this over here, and what. Now the wife is holding her head like, dude, let's just get this thing over with. Let's just give him the listing and let's go. We need to go. We have an appointment. We got to go. And he just sits there. No, let me digest and let me. And she's like, let's just give him the listing. And he's like, let's slow down. Let's just think about it. Let's sleep over and just think about this thing. I want to sleep on it. Give me 2 days. I'll get back to you. And the wife is like, so who do you present to in this scenario? You're presenting to 3 different personality styles. And if you are, in that case, an amiable, 99.9%, you're not going to get that listing on the spot. If you got the listing, it's because no one else got in there to do another presentation. So what do you do in that scenario? You're amiable, and you're dealing with the analytical, which is not your style, and you're dealing with a driver, which is not your style, and expressive, which is not your style, and you're sitting there, amiable, timid, naturally timid, shy, okay, sensitive, and you need to deal with that situation. That's not an easy, position to be in. It's really not. So because of that, you really need to understand, like I said, all the market A to Z, and you need to understand different personality styles and how to present to each and every one of them. We will talk a lot more about personality styles. That's the next level. But first, you guys need to, get the basics done. Understand A to Z, all the scripts, understand the pre-qualifying process A to Z. So when I wake you up at 3 a.m. and I ask you, what's question number 5 on your pre-qualifying script, and you tell me, boom, that's what it is. That you need to get to that level. You need to role play, chant out loud, handwrite the scripts, practice, and then go and get in action. Again, I'm going to mention to you, don't take vacations before you get to the level that you should be in, at least for 2 years, and then start, replanning your life. You need to work your butts off. This industry is a hard industry. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And to be successful, you got to outwork your competition. More questions about pricing, CMA, and all that stuff. All right, guys, tomorrow morning, we're meeting at 7:30 sharp. Please sign in at 7:25 so we can start sharply at 7:30. We're going to do a role play session. We will role play tomorrow again, the pre-qualifying script variation with expired and feasible. And then we're going to do something slightly different on Tuesday. Also on Tuesday morning at 6:30 a.m., we got the coaching at 6:30 a.m. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I will see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.